Good morning, students. Welcome to the class 7C. I, Mrs. Anju Farkade, will teach you science for the academic year 2020-2021. Now let us begin with the first lesson, the living world, adaptation and classification. Now let us recall, why do we see the different plants and the animals around us? Now we find out a great variety of the plants and the animals around us. Some plants, they are colorful flowers, some plants they grow in water, some are found in the deserts, some are where there is a scarcity of the water. Some plants they are found only in the snowy region, and some plants they are so small, they are microscopic that they cannot be seen with the naked eye, and some are very huge in size. So now, like plants, there is a variety in the animals also. So animals also show a great diversity. Some are unicellular, others are multicellular, some are vertebrates, whereas some are invertebrates. So this world, it is full of great variety of animals and the plants. Now the animals are a variety of the animal, that is aquatic, terrestrial, amphibians, then reptilian, aerial, etc. So now these observations give rise to the question, how did this diversity come into existence? So let us study in this chapter. Now can you tell me whether the plants and the animals of the Kashmir and the Rajasthan, they are of the same type? No, they are not of same type. Now the plants which are found in Kashmir are coniferous trees like pine and the deodar, which flourish in the snowy regions. Whereas in deserts of Rajasthan, we see the plants like cactus and acacia. Now same way the animals found in desert is camel. Now that camel is not found in Kashmir. So which animals are found in the Kashmir? Polar bear, yak, and other this one silver fox, and these animals they are found in Kashmir. So what is the reason for this differences in plants and animals in different region? The answer is adaptation. So now let us, what is the meaning of this adaptation? Adaptation is, it is the gradual changes in the body parts that also in the behavior of the organisms which help them to adjust to their surrounding. So such changes, they are called as the adaptation. So it takes place over a long period of time. Slowly the changes occur in the structure of the plants and the animals as there are changes in the surrounding, and so those changes, and accordingly the behavior of the animals also changes. So these changes, gradual changes, which take place which take millions of years here, which take thousands of years, that is called as the adaptation. Now let us observe and complete the chart and include other plants from your region too. Now first one is here lotus. So if you see here this one lotus, it is the aquatic plant, and this one its habitat, where it is found in it is aquatic plant, and it is the type of the root is fibrous. Then characteristics of the leaves is large and round with the waxy layer, and the characteristic of the stem is hollow and flexible. Now the second plant is here cactus. Now you can see this one structure of the cactus here. Now this cactus, it is a terrestrial plant. It is, then the type of the root is taproot. And how are the leaves here? The leaves here, you can see this thorn-like structure. This thorn-like structures here, this one here, these are nothing but the leaves of the cactus. And this green part which you see, this is the stem of the cactus. So these characteristics of the leaves of the cactus, it is small, needle shaped, and characteristic of the stem, it is what? Fleshy green. So this stem of the cactus plant, it is green in color. Then next we will see this one banyan plant. For the banyan plant, it is also terrestrial. Then type of root is taproot. Then characteristic of the leaf is oval shaped, and characteristic of the stem is thick and hard. So this is this way here you can take some more examples from your surrounding and find out the habitat, where it is grown, where it grows, then the type of the root, the characteristics of the leaves and the characteristics of the stem you can find out. Now let us see about this one, adaptation of the plants, aquatic plants. Now here see in the figure here some aquatic plants are shown. So now we can see some aquatic plants here, this one here, the roots they grow deep into the soil. Now these aquatic plants here, the roots they don't grow deep into the soil, they are fibrous roots. And for these plants here you can see this one, this plant here, they are just floating into the water. They are just floating into the water. So and some of the plants they are just submerged into the water. So what we observe here, their stems they are submerged while the leaves and the flowers float on the surface. However, some plants are entirely afloat, so their roots are not anchored to the soil. So the surfaces of the leaves and the stems of many aquatic plants are covered with the waxy layer. Now why they are covered with the waxy layer? So the water does not accumulate on that waxy layer and it is washed out. Now leaves of some aquatic plants are thin and slender like a ribbon. Now this shape helps them to withstand fast currents of the water. So the air spaces in the stem and the petioles of the aquatic plants are useful for floating into the water. Now this is the stem of lotus. So you can see here it has got the air spaces in it. So it is hollow from inside, and so as it is hollow from inside, it is lighter in weight, and so lighter in weight. Here see these are the whole air sacs, so it can float into the water. Now next we will see here. Now let us see these questions here. Why does the water trickle off the lotus leaves? Now the water trickles off the lotus leaves because the leaves are covered with the wax. And why don't the leaves of these plants rot in water? Because the water does not accumulate due to the waxy layer. Now why are the roots short and fibrous? Because it is an aquatic plant, it grows in water, so the root doesn't have to grow deep into the water, deep into the soil in search of water. Now next we will see here the adaptation of in the desert plants. Now take two potted plants, one a cactus and other a leafy plant. Tie the plastic bags loosely around the leaves of these plants and keep them in sunlight from early in the morning. So in the afternoon, bring these pots into the classroom and observe them. So what we observe is how has the quantity of the water collected in both the bags will be same? No. The water collected in the plastic bag which is covered on the cactus plant, it will be less as compared to the water collected in the plastic bag of the other potted plant. Now the reason for this is here, see these desert plants either they are leafless or these thorns which are there, these are nothing but these thorns you can see here, these thorns here, these are nothing but the leaves of the plant. So they have got very small surface for the loss of water from their body, and so the water collected in the plastic bag covered with the cactus plant, it will be less as compared to the water collected in the other potted plant. Now this green part here, you can see this green part here, this is the stem. This is the stem of the cactus plant. This also is the stem of the cactus plant. So now this stem, it is green in color. So the photosynthesis process in the cactus plant, it takes place in the cactus in the stem than in the leaves. Then there is a thick layer of then next is here. Next we will see the adaptation of the plants in the snowy region. Now in the snowy region we know Now this is the deodar tree which is there found in the snowy region. So you can see that the branches of the tree here, they can have the sloping branches. So when due to the sloping branches here like this way, the ice cannot accumulate on the branches of the tree, and so the sloping branches. So these trees, they are conical in shape due to the sloping branches. So in heavy snowfall and in the cold region, and in extreme cold in this region, their conical shape prevents the snow from accumulating on the tree, and the thick bark helps the tree to survive, withstand the cold also. Now next we will see the adaptation of the plants of the forest regions. Now in forest regions, there is a variety of the plants. Means the trees are there, shrubs are there, and the herbs are there. Trees means the, here see, this is an example of the tree. This is the tree. Then small this one shrubs are also there, and the herbs are also there. Now these plants, they compete among themselves for the sunlight. Hence these trees, they grow tall to get sunlight, and climbers and vines, they grow on the great height with the support of the trees. So spring like tendrils on the stems of some climbers is an example of this adaptation. Then adaptation in the grasslands. Now the diverse types of bushes and grasses are found in the grasslands. Now the fibrous roots of grasses prevent soil erosion. Forests in the equatorial region, they are dense. Now animals like tiger, elephants and deer, they remain hidden in these grasses. However, the grasses in the cold region are very short. Animals like rabbit are found in such grasses. So vast meadows are found in hilly as areas as well as in the plains. Now next we will see how the adaptation for the ingestion of food is there in case of plants. Now most of the plants, they are anchored to the ground. So those plants which are anchored to the ground, they are autotrophic, means they can prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis. However, some plants like dodder is there, casquetas. Here you can see these yellow wire-like stems which are growing on this other green plant. So this yellow one here, this here, this yellow one here, this is nothing but the casqueta. So this casqueta here, it grows on the other trees for surviving. Now since it is leafless, it cannot perform photosynthesis. However, it has got the haustorial roots for absorbing nutrients from the host plant. Now these roots, they penetrate deep into up to the conducting vessels of the host plant to absorb the water and the food. Now even the fungi, we know they do not have the chlorophyll. Fungus you must have seen growing on the stale bread or on the stale food or on the walls during rainy season. Now they do not have chlorophyll and they cannot perform photosynthesis. But still, so what they do here, they have some root like fibers for the absorption of the food. So they grow absorption of the food, and they do not have they grow on this stale food and then walls and other things during the rainy season, and they absorb the nutrients from those things on which they grow. Now the plants, they need nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium for the growth. Now plants that grow in soil which is deficient in nitrogen like Drosera, Venus flytrap, pitcher plant, etc., they fulfill their need for nitrogen by consuming the insect. Now adaptations are seen in these plants which serve to attract insects and hold them captive. Now see, this is a Venus flytrap plant. Now this Venus flytrap plant, you can see it is very attractive plant. So here now this is the trap here. So as soon as the insect insect, when it comes here in contact with these two wings like structures of this plant, that this trap closes, and then closes and it absorbs the nutrients from the insect. And similarly the other plants like Drosera is also another insectivorous plants which feed on the insects. Now let us come across. So this is how the adaptation of the plants in the different regions we have seen. Now let us see next the adaptation in the animals. Now we see many animals around us, and there is much diversity in the structure, food habitats, characteristics of the vertebral column, then wings, gills, etc. Now why do we see differences in this terrestrial and the aquatic animals? Now as compared to the terrestrial animal, the skin and the body shape of the aquatic animals, they are different. Now the fishes, they have scale on the skin and the fins on the body. Now their body tapers. Here you can see tapers on both the sides. So it makes easier for them to swim into the water. Now also they have air bladders inside the body to help them to float in water. Now their eyelids, they are transparent. So even if they are closed, here eyelids are closed, so the eyes will not be affected by the water, and also they can see with the transparent eyelids. Now observe the bodies of the duck and the tortoise and answer these questions here. Now for what use are their legs to use these animals? Now they use these legs for the locomotion. Now what helps frogs to breathe underwater? Skin. Of what use are the long hind limbs of the frog? They are used for jumping. Now why doesn't the duck get wet in water? Now the wings, they secrete oil, so the wings doesn't become wet. Now also we know, now next we will see the characteristic features of this duck here. Now as the frog and the duck, they have the webbed toes. Now webbed toes means, here see how this is how the webbed toes looks. So these toes here you can see, this one toes, they are connected to each other with the help of this skin, and so these toes here, they are called as the webbed toes. So the webbed toes, they are found in the duck as well as in the frog. Now webbed toes, a slippery mouth, then smooth skin and triangular head, it helps the frogs to swim easily through the water. Now they can live on the land as well as in the water due to the ability to breathe through the skin in water and using the nose and lungs on the land. Now the typical colors of the frog's back help it to hide among the grasses. Now make the list of the other amphibians which you can find. So the other amphibians are example crocodile, tortoise. So these are also the amphibians, frog are the amphibians which are around us. Now adaptation in the forest and the grassland animals. Now the carnivorous animals like wild dog, fox, tiger and lion, they have the strong legs to run fast and capture their prey. Now they have claws and their canine teeth are sharp and pointed. Now the function of these teeth is to tear the flesh. Now the tigers, lions and leopards, they have got the padded paws. Now this padded paws helps them to move silently, stalk their prey and capture it easily. Then now the eyes of the predatory carnivores, they are located in front of their head. So here you can see this one. Here the eyes of this lion, they are located in the front. So they can have a, so it helps them to spot their prey even at from a long distance. Now this is the herbivorous animal, black buck. Now this herbivorous animal here, it has got eyes on either side of the head. So this gives them a wide angle vision and it helps them to protect them from the predators. Now their legs, they are long and tapering with the strong hooves which helps them to run faster. So they can take long leaps here. Now the deer and the black bucks, they have color which that merge with the surroundings, and their teeth are strong for chewing tough plant materials. So this is the adaptation which is seen in the grassland animals. Now let us see the adaptation in the desert animals. Now in the most common animal which is found in the desert is camel. Now these deserts, they are characterized by the severe scarcity of the water. Hence the desert animals have a thick skin to prevent loss of water from the body. Now their legs are long and flat and cushioned soles. The nostrils are protected by folds of skin. So the eyelashes are long and thick. Rats, snakes, spiders, lizards in deserts live in deep burrows during the daytime and are active during the night. So during night when it is cold, that time they come out and they become active. Now next we will see the adaptation of the animals in the snowy region. Now the animals of the snowy region is yak and the polar bear, silver fox, dogs, etc. Polar bear. Now we see that these animals, they have a silver body color or white, and also they have the long and thick hair on the skin. Now why do they have a long and thick hair on the skin? To protect from the cold. And why the color of the body is silver or white? To camouflage with the snow color, so that they are not easily found out by the predators. Now next we will see the adaptation in the aerial animals. Now the aerial animals are mostly, what are the examples of the aerial animals? Birds. So now you can see this one, this is a eagle which is shown in the figure. So this eagle, it has got a body which is tapering on both the sides. So this also minimizes the resistance of the air while flying. So with the hollow bones, the body covering of the feathers and modification of the forelegs into the wings. So now the forelegs, with the front legs, they are modified into the wings. The body is lighter in weight because the bones are hollow, and so they are adapted to flying. Now the body of the insects are also light in weight and tapers at both the ends, so they can also fly with a pair of wings and also walk with the 6 stick like legs. So now the bats also, it also help with the help of patagium. Patagium means it is a thin fold of skin between their forelegs and the hind legs. So with the help of that, it can fly. So the examples of the aerial animals are birds, then bats and the insects. So they can fly into the air. Now the adaptation in the reptiles, let us see now. Now this is a lizard, snake and tortoise. Now why these animals, they can move with the help of the muscular movements, so with the help of the movement of the muscles they can move. Now from a distance we see that the snakes and the earthworm, they creep. Now which organs do they use for the creeping? Are there any special changes for that purpose? Note that such changes, like animals like the house lizard, garden lizard, crocodile, use their muscles for creeping. Similarly, they show adaptations in skin, soles of the feet, body color, etc. Like the house lizard and the monitor lizard have clawed toes and thin soles, whereas the snakes have a scaly skin. Now for the adaptation for food in the animals, let us see now how the structure of the beak is different, or the different mouth structures they are got for the feeding or for the ingestion of the food. So we can categorize animals as herbivorous and the carnivorous. Now so special adaptations are seen in each category of the animals to make the process of feeding easy. Now we will discuss in greater detail in this chapter on nutrition. Now see here, this one, this here, butterfly, it has got a tube like structure. This tube like structure, which is called as the proboscis. So it, with the help of that tube like structure proboscis, it sucks the nectar from the flowers. Then here you can see this one, the beak of this bird here. So woodcutter, it feeds on the insects of the tree. which are there in the bark of the tree. So with this sharp teeth, it can feed on the insects which are there in the bark. Now let us complete the table following chart from your own observation. Now sharp teeth, it is found in which animals? Lion and the tiger. Now the use of the adaptation is to tear the flesh. Then long and pointed beak is found in crane to pick up the food. Then short beak is found in parrot to eat the fruits. Then long and sticky tongue is found in frog to catch the insects. And long neck is found in giraffe to eat the leaves of the tree. Now adaptation for blending with the surrounding. Now we cannot spot easily the cuttle-of butterfly. Means here the this one color of the animals is in such a way that they camouflage with the background color and they cannot be spotted by their predators. So the butterflies, lizards and the grasshoppers. For example, the grasshoppers, they are green in color. So they cannot, so they match with the color of the trees that which is green, and so they cannot be easily so they get blend with those of the surrounding and they cannot be easily noticed by their predators. Now changes that take place in the various organs and the life processes of the organisms enable them to live, feed, reproduce, to perpetuate themselves, to protect themselves from the surroundings, specific surroundings depending upon the condition. So thus from this adaptation of the plants and the animals, what we have seen that adaptation, it is not a sudden process, it is the gradual and continuous. Now differences in the structure of the appearance of the present day animals and the animals of the thousands of years ago are the adaptations that occurred according to the prevailing conditions. Now next we will see that how these animals and the plants or animals and the plants, they are classified. Now why the living things are classified? We see millions of the plants and the animals around us. So now some criteria must be used for classifying them. Now this criteria here we can see with the help of this example here, like different scientists, they use different criteria and independently classified plants and the animals. So hierarchy is formed in the classification that starts with the kingdom Animalia or the kingdom Plantae. So other groups and subgroups are formed depending on the basic similarities and the differences. This is called as the hierarchy of the classification. Now the binomial nomenclature, it is used by the Carl Linnaeus. Now imagine that there are 4 students in the class whose name is Kabir or Kiran. Now in order to find out that which Kabir anyone is talking of, we will have to tell about his surname also, because the surnames will definitely be different. So we are using the name and the surname for identifying the person. So this name and the surname, that forms like binomial, means 2 things we are using for naming a person. So same way this binomial nomenclature, it is found in the living things. So this one, mango and the human you take, so the kingdom Plantae or the Animalia is there. Then phylum, Antophyla and Chordata. Then class, again further it is divided into the classes, Dicotyledonous or Mammalia. Well, you know that the seeds, they are of 2 types, monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous. So the mango plant, they have got the monocotyledonous. And then this one, Mammalia, means what here? The human beings, they give direct birth to the young ones. So Mammalia, Reptilia, Pisces, these are all the again the different classes of the animals. Then orders, Sapindales, then here primates, family, Anacardiaceae, then Hominidae, genus Magnifera, and then Homo, species Indica, and the Sapiens. So this, imagine that there are 4 so this here what we observe, that hierarchy is formed in the classification that starts with the kingdom Animalia or the kingdom Plantae, and further groups and subgroups are formed depending upon basic similarities and the differences. So this is called as the hierarchy of the classification. Now imagine that there are this one next. So thus we see that binomial nomenclature is used to identify each organism. Accordingly, the scientific name has been assigned to each organism. It consists of 2 parts. The first part is genus and the second one is species. So all identified organisms have been assigned binomial name as per the guidelines of the International Code of Nomenclature. Okay. Now all the organisms of a species are so similar that irrespective of the differences, color, height, habitats and habits, they can reproduce among themselves and for new individuals like themselves. For example, all domestic cats in the world belong to the same species. The same is true for for the animals like hen, cow and all. Like the most common example, you take the mango. Now we see a variety of the mango, mango Alfonso, mango Rajapuri, like this. So same way for the roses, different varieties of the roses we get. So this is true for all the plants and the animals around us. So some examples are given here, the scientific name and the living thing and their scientific name is given. For dog it is Canis lupus familiaris, cow it is Bos taurus, hibiscus rosa sinensis, jawar it is Sorghum bicolor. Now so this way we can find out the different names of the plants and the animals.